We've all been there, right? After one of those days where your brain just feels like it's spinning and the to-do list is, well, endless. All you really crave is that peaceful evening, that deep, rejuvenating rest. But how often do we actually get it? We hear about evening routines all the time. Sometimes maybe we dismiss them as just another wellness trend or, common sense that's just hard to actually do. So today in the deep dive, we want to challenge that a bit. Our mission is to unpack how these simple, consistent evening habits aren't just about feeling rested. Our sources show they're actually a powerful tool for cognitive resilience, basically training your brain to switch off that always on mode. And research suggests this really reduces burnout risk over time. These routines act like a buffer, a crucial one, between the day's demands and the rest your body needs. Okay, let's unpack this. How do these seemingly simple habits make such a profound difference, especially for those of us who kind of already know the basics?
Well, the core idea here, and it's what makes it so practical, really, is that creating these intentional nighttime patterns, it signals to your body that it's time to wind down.
Okay, signal.
Yeah, it's about helping you naturally transition, from that daytime chaos, that always-on feeling, to nighttime calm. You're actually leveraging your natural physiological responses instead of, fighting them.
That idea of actively training your body and mind, it sounds powerful, but maybe also for a lot of people, it sounds like more work at the end of an already exhausting day. What do the sources say about getting over that initial hump, that resistance, especially when you're just feeling drained?
That is a really crucial point. And what stands out from the sources is the cumulative effect of these habits. They're not like a quick fix, like taking the sleeping pill one night.
Right.
Instead, they actively work to reduce that nighttime anxiety, those racing thoughts that keep so many of us awake. And crucially, they prepare your body for that deep restorative sleep.
So it builds over time.
Exactly. They build a foundation for long-term sleep health. And it works because your body actually craves consistency. It responds really, really positively when you provide that structure.
So think of it less like more work.
Yeah, more like a small, consistent investment that honestly pays off exponentially down the line.
Okay, so building that foundation, the absolute backbone, according to our sources, for any effective evening routine is a consistent bedtime. This means making a real effort to go to bed and wake up around the same time every day. And yeah, this is the tricky part for many of us, but the advice is clear, even on weekends.
Yes, even on weekends. And that consistency, it isn't just about sleep hours. It's critical because it directly regulates your entire internal clock, your circadian rhythm.
Okay.
And that impacts, well, pretty much everything: hormone release, metabolism, digestion, even your mood.
Wow.
So disrupting it, even just on weekends, can create this sort of social jet lag. And that subtly undermines your health and energy all week long.
Social jet lag, huh?
Yeah. I actually have a friend, Jade. She used to burn the candle at both ends, and she told me her sleep improved dramatically when she really trained herself to wind down at the same time every night, weekends included.
So it really worked for her.
It really did. So as a practical step, aim for, say, 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That's the general recommendation. And then maybe gradually adjust your bedtime. Shift it by 15 minutes or so until you find your personal sweet spot.
Yeah.
That time where you naturally wake up feeling refreshed.
Right, finding that sweet spot. Okay, so we've set the stage with consistency. But what's the first thing so many of us grab when we finally sit down?
The phone.
Exactly. Our devices, right? And that's where one of the biggest hurdles often lies. The sources really emphasize creating a tech-free transition period.
Absolutely key.
The recommendation is turning off devices at least 30 minutes before bed. Though, interestingly, the author of one source takes it further phone in another room about an hour before bed.
Yeah, and this is so crucial. Most of us know about the blue light messing with melatonin, right? But the sources highlight, it's not just the light, it's also the cognitive engagement, the dynamic content notifications, pinging, endless scrolling, news alerts that keeps your brain wired, on high alert.
Ah, so it's the stimulation too.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It actively suppresses that natural melatonin surge your body needs to actually feel sleepy. So instead of screen time, the antidote is, well, analog replacements.
Like what?
Think about picking up a physical book, paper, or writing in a journal, maybe just sitting quietly for a bit. It also helps a lot to use warm, dim lighting.
Right, not those bright overheads.
Exactly. Those bright, harsh lights can sort of trick your brain into thinking it's still daytime. You could even create like a cozy corner with just a soft lamp. It's almost a visual cue for your brain. Okay, time to power down now.
I like that, a cozy corner. Okay, so you've unplugged, dimmed the lights. What's next? The sources talk about incorporating relaxing activities, right, to release that physical and mental tension.
Yes.
They give some great examples, like gentle stretching or yoga. Maybe just a simple 10-minute routine focusing on those stress spots, shoulders, neck, lower back.
Where we all hold it, yeah.
Totally. Or a warm bath or shower. The sources mentioned doing it about 90 minutes before bed.
There's a reason for that timing.
Yeah, apparently the rise and then the drop in your body temperature afterwards, it mimics the natural change that happens when you fall asleep, which is pretty clever.
It is. It leverages your physiology.
You can even add things like lavender oil or Epsom salts. And for those nights, when your mind is just racing, listening to soft music or maybe a bedtime meditation can be super effective.
Absolutely. I think we've all been there.
Oh, yeah. Hit the pillow and suddenly your brain decides to replay the entire day or plan tomorrow in excruciating detail.
Exactly. And the sources really emphasize giving your mind something else, something gentle to focus on, like a guide almost, instead of just trying to force it to stop thinking, which, let's be honest, usually backfires.
Right. You can't force it.
This lines up with ideas like the Scandinavian sleep method. It highlights that preparing the mind for rest is just as critical as preparing the body. Even, say, 5 minutes of deep breathing or just listening to some calming sounds, that can really shift your nervous system.
Shift it how?
From that stressed-out fight-or-flight mode into the calmer rest-and-digest state. You're actively signaling safety to your system.
Okay, signaling safety. I like that framing. And then there are these small, sort of nurturing self-care actions that can really wrap up the day nicely.
Little rituals.
Yeah, like using a soothing skincare or body lotion. The source author mentioned applying a lightly scented lotion while taking deep breaths. That sounds incredibly calming and intentional.
It does, combining scent and mindful breathing.
Another simple one, brewing a cup of herbal tea. Chamomile, valerian root, lemon balm, about an hour before bed so it's caffeine-free and gives you that quiet moment.
And just pause.
And something often overlooked but really helpful according to the sources, preparing for the next day.
Yes, getting things ready.
Laying out clothes, packing your lunch, whatever it is, it reduces that morning chaos, which in turn helps prevent bedtime worry about the next day. It actually creates this kind of positive feedback loop, a virtuous cycle.
Less morning stress leads to less bedtime worry.
Which fuels better sleep, which makes the next morning even easier.
Yeah. Okay, now this all sounds great in theory. But for someone listening who's maybe tried versions of this before, how do you actually stick with it? Especially when life just, gets in the way.
The million-dollar question, right? How to make it stick. The key, and our sources really stress this, is understanding the psychology of habit formation. It boils down to start small and build gradually.
Okay, don't try everything at once.
Exactly. Don't try to overhaul your entire evening routine overnight. That's usually a recipe for feeling overwhelmed and giving up. Instead, pick just one or two things that feel sustainable.
Like maybe just the bedtime first.
Yeah, maybe start with nailing that consistent bedtime. Then maybe a week later, layer in that screen-free hour. Then perhaps introduce a short, relaxing activity, build it up slowly. And the environment matters too, right?
Tremendously. Your sleep environment is huge.
Yeah.
Aim for a cool room. The suggestion is around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, cool.
Use blackout curtains or maybe an eye mask to make it really dark. And try to keep the space clutter-free. A cluttered room can sometimes contribute to a cluttered mind.
That makes sense. What about colors?
Yeah, even colors can have a subtle influence. Calming blues, soft greens, neutral tones are generally better for a bedroom than, say, stimulating bright reds or yellows.
Okay, good tip. So we're talking consistent effort, not expecting overnight miracles. But how long does it really take, roughly, for these habits to feel less like effort and more automatic? I feel like I've heard all sorts of numbers.
You're right to ask, and the research on habit formation is pretty fascinating. It actually suggests it can take anywhere from, get this, 18 days to as long as 254 days for a new behavior to become truly automatic.
Wow, that's a huge range, 18 to 254 days.
It is. It really depends on the person, the complexity of the habit, and the consistency. So the big takeaway here is patience and self-compassion are essential.
Be gentle with yourself.
Absolutely. Be gentle if you have a night where your routine just doesn't happen. Life happens. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Consistency over the long haul. If you miss a night, Just get back to it the next evening. No harsh self-judgment needed.
Right. It's about the practice, not a perfect score.
Exactly. Building that consistent practice over time.
So ultimately, as we've kind of explored here, there isn't one single perfect formula for an evening routine that works for absolutely everyone, is there?
No, definitely not.
The personalized approach seems best simply because, well, no two people unwind in exactly the same way. Some people might. Others might find that a quick, focused 15-minute routine does the trick for them.
And that's perfectly fine. What's truly insightful, I think, from digging into this is that the consistency and the intention behind it, those are what really matter most.
Ah, the intention.
Yeah, those small nightly habits, when you apply them with that conscious effort, they create this powerful cumulative effect. It can genuinely transform your relationship with sleep and, honestly, how you feel and function every single day.
So what does this all mean for you, listening right now? Our advice, based on this deep dive, is pretty simple. Choose just one element to start with.
Just one.
Maybe it is that consistent bedtime. Or maybe creating that screen-free hour feels most doable right now. Or perhaps adding a 5-minute stretching routine. Pick one thing.
And notice how it feels.
Yeah, start with that single practice, pay attention to how it feels, and then over time you can gradually layer in other habits. You'll end up creating a customized routine that really supports your unique sleep needs and helps build that cognitive resilience we talked about. Remember, the journey to better rest really does happen one peaceful evening at a time.
And maybe, if we connect this to the bigger picture for a moment, just imagine the ripple effect. Think about prioritizing just a few moments of intentional winding down each night. How might that small shift fundamentally alter your entire outlook on the next day? Maybe it makes you more creative or more patient, perhaps more focused. How might it impact your long-term sense of peace even? It's worth considering.
It really is. Your future well-rested self will absolutely thank you for taking these small, intentional steps tonight. Prioritize that sleep.